Hello everyone, it's Luli, and today I'll be making yet another spoiler review of ShuuenのヴィルシュEra Salvation. Today I'll be talking about Lucas, or Luca. I'm probably just going to refer to him as Luca from now on because that's what I hear when I'm playing the game. As I said in the last video, this is going to be a spoiler, full of spoiler, like seriously spoiler full review. Or I keep on calling it like my Otome diaries, so yeah, it's gonna be, you know, description of the route as well as my opinions that go along with it. So if you don't want to know anything about the game, then I would definitely swiftly move on. But anyway, let me start. So oh man, Luca, he's so far my favorite character. I've played up to Eve's route so far, and even when I had finished playing his route, I was just so in awe. I honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being my favorite character because so far he is my favorite character. And right from the beginning, in the common route, I was already sort of feeling, I get weird vibes from him type of thing, you know? I was just sort of like, I'm playing it and going, that's weird, that seems unnatural, and I was like really studying his sprite and then comparing it to, well, the killer actually, because I don't know, I felt like there was some relation between Luca and the killer, and it could be that either Luca's the killer or he has something to do with the killer, but I got the feeling that maybe he has something to do with the killer. And the thing is, I was a little bit confused towards the end of the common route because Luca is there when they defeat the killer, but it all made sense. And yes, Luca was the killer. And it's a bit funny because I specifically chose this character in hopes that he was or had deeply, you know, had deep relations with the killer or whatever, because I just had to know, and that's why I picked his route first, and I was not disappointed. Like, his route was crazy. Basically what happens is that the main character, after the common route, decides she wants to further investigate this killer just in case he hasn't died, because it just felt a bit like weird, especially with the person who threw the acid and walked away. And in order to do so, she decided to basically help Luca, because Luca is a teacher that goes around different orphanages and teaches, and in fact he also taught Celeste as well. And so she decides to help him with his, you know, teaching by being like an assistant. And so, you know, they get along, and right at the beginning I already got like Yandere vibes, because, you know, they kind of meet up and agree that she's gonna help him, and then when she leaves it kind of goes into Luca's perspective, and he's like, oh gosh, I can't believe I get to spend time with her, and it's like the way he says it is super sus. So and yes, he was the yandere character. I think my Otome instinct is just like, I'm like a yandere radar. I will detect things and I'll go, I think he's a yandere character, and about 8 times out of 10 I usually get it right. But yeah, it's interesting because, you know, as you'd expect, Celeste and Luca's bond kind of grows as they work together. And actually there's a little girl that you meet in the common route who turns out to be Luca's sister, and she actually has this illness where her muscles don't grow on her properly, and so she's held, or she's looked after by this hospital that is there and, you know, held and organized by this cult. I can't remember the name of it, but there's this cult that is severely against reliver technology. Now, for those who don't know what reliver technology is, I have explained it in the common route, but I'll explain it again. Basically, in this world, people die or have a lifespan of 23 years, but in order to sort of live longer, they created this technology, reliver technology, where they would take cells or genes from that person as well as their memories, and then download it into a new clone that they would make, and in that way they would enhance their lifespan, because it comes with a couple of side effects, one being that you can sometimes lose your love towards certain people, and in one instance Luca actually talks about is that one man was incredibly loving of his younger sister, but he became a reliver, and then suddenly he hated his sister so much that he beat her up to death. And it's quite a sad story, because obviously Luca having a younger sister kind of relates to this. Now, as a result of these side effects, there's a number of people who have joined this cult whereby they're severely against reliver technology, and this hospital in which his younger sister resides is basically a hospital run by this cult. And yeah, so as you can tell, Luca and his younger sister, you find out, is against reliver technology. It's kind of sad because Luca is 23, so he could die any moment, or he's 22, I can't remember, but he could die any moment, but you know, he just refuses to become a reliver. So you can already tell that this route is going to be relatively tragic. Now you go through all of that and you learn a bit about, you know, Luca and his younger sister, and you find out that he's the killer about midway through the route, and you find out by Celeste basically walking out somewhere and then encountering him in the act of murdering someone. And oh boy, this is where the full-on yandere happens. He basically catches her, brings her to the underground, like, I don't know what you call it in English, but like the underground bit of the hospital run by the cult, and you discover that they've been running experiments on relivers. So they've been doing really inhumane things to relivers in an attempt, because you find out that this cult was actually built initially to fight against this curse that causes everyone to die at the age 23, and they've been running these inhumane experiments on relivers to try and find out a way to battle against it, not by becoming a reliver but more by enhancing your body, that sort of thing. And you find out that they've been taking samples in a way of the heart by getting Luca to kill all these relivers, and it's actually pretty messed up, because the reason why he does it isn't because he, you know, feels like he's helping the cult or anything like that. The reason why he does it, and it's so tragic, is that his youngest sister is incredibly weak. She has this muscle problem and it's not going to go away because it's clearly genetic. And basically the leader of this cult brainwashes him and tells him that by killing these relivers, he is giving them to God as a sacrifice, and as a result it's helping Nadia, his little sister, become a little bit better. So he's going around killing all these relivers, thinking that it's making his younger sister better, not knowing that this whole time the leader of this cult is actually a crazy weirdo, a bit of a pervert in my opinion, because, and this doesn't sound as interesting me saying it as if you were to play it, but basically this leader has an obsession with weird genetics, or like mutated genes, or like if someone has DNA that is unusual, or there's a mutation which causes problems in their body or good things for their body, whatever, either way, he kind of gets really obsessed with them. And so he's obsessed with not Nadia herself but her genes, and what he's been doing is keeping her alive to the point where he can then take her genes and then like, and he actually, it's really tragic because in the end he does this. What happens is the main character finds out Luca has the secret of killing people, and then he continues doing so, but then the leader says, right, I'm not going to let you see Nadia anymore, and I can't remember why it happened, but it happens. And yeah, it makes Luca go crazy. But as you can imagine, the moment the main character finds out that Luca is a killer, the cage appears, because, you know, that's a yandere classic. I shouldn't laugh. But honestly, when the bars appeared, I was like, oh, here we go. Classic yandere. And so, you know, Ceres spends her time in this cage while Luca's being very protective of her and making sure that she doesn't run away. But yeah, in the end, Luca and Ceres kind of try and work together to get into this hospital, and that's when they find out that he's basically killed Nadia and turned her into this weird, monstrous thing. I don't know, like, it looks like a monster because she has like these enlarged hands, and it's all really horrific. And yeah, and the leader's like, oh, this is my bride, and it gets really weird. And so it makes Luca go absolutely crazy, and he loses his mind and goes on a killing spree. And he doesn't only kill relivers, he starts killing like everyone, regardless of whether they're reliver or not. And basically how the route ends, because there are 2 bad endings, you don't have a good end yet, you have to go through 2 bad endings. I know it's one of those despair games, but, and I'm laughing, I'm not being psychotic, I just find the concept of the game crazy, that there's 2 despair endings and you have to get through them before you get to even enjoy the good ending. Like, that is crazy. But anyway, the route ends, there are 2 despair endings, one with the CG, one without. Now, funnily enough, I preferred the one without the CG, but I'll explain what happens in the one with the CG. Basically, Luca goes on a killing spree. He manages to get into the labs that have this reliver technology, you know, to the ability to make people into clones and turn them into relivers. And then he goes crazy. The main character meets Anku, the death god type thing, because he actually gets defeated by Luca. Because I forgot to mention this, and I'm sorry that I'm not like being very coherent in, you know, explaining this stuff, but basically Luca has these genes that are also passed down from his father, where they have extreme strength, so much strength so that they have to train to hold like glasses and stuff without breaking them. Like, they're so powerful. And funnily enough, his father turns out to be the teacher of Adolf and Eve. He teaches them how to be strong and stuff, and funnily enough, that's Luca's father. But yeah, so Luca has this ability of being overly powerful, and yeah, so he gets into the lab, and even the death god has problems. He gets killed once. The reason why I say killed is because he can't technically die, this death god. I don't know who he is. Anku is a mysterious being. He kind of basically, I don't know, I explained the common route, but he basically guides those who died into the next world. But Luca managed to kind of kill him once, and then he comes back to life, and Anku is like, you know, we need to stop this guy. So then Ceres and Anku agree that what they're going to do is Anku is going to get in the way so that Luca is slashing him, and while he's doing that, Ceres would then stop Luca by killing him. Like, that's the plan they come up with. Now, in one ending, this works, right? The other one, it doesn't. Now, the one with the CG is when Luca accidentally kills Ceres, and oh boy, I've come across an ending like this in Virche's game before, but this one obviously I felt was worse because of how it built up to it. Basically, Luca in his craziness kills Ceres, and then suddenly realizes and go, oh my god, what have I done? But he can't accept the fact that he's killed her. So what he does is he takes her dead body and brings it into a cave, where she is then like dying and rotting as a corpse, and he marries her. And the CG is of him getting a wedding ring and putting it through one of her hands, like her fingers, which is a bone pretty much, saying, oh dear, perhaps it's the stress, you know, you've lost so much weight, here's a wedding ring though, we're married now. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's just so, like, this is beyond, like, normally when there's a messed up ending, more often than not, if it's bittersweet, I find it beautiful, but this was so beyond messed up that it was one of those endings where I went, oh my gosh, what am I looking at right now? You know? But it was good. It was good. Now, the other ending without the CG, funnily enough, I actually preferred it because it just felt more real and more bittersweet. Now, what happens is that Luca does not kill Celeste. Celeste manages to kill Luca. However, instead of sort of saying that she's the one that killed Luca and, you know, saved everyone, she says that she was the wife of Luca all this time and was actually helping him in killing them. And what happens is she becomes executed. And so when after that scene, it pans onto a scene where she is about to get hanged because of it. And her last words are sort of like, oh, I love Luca so much, I'm his wife, and, you know, words of love basically, and how she's happy that now she's going to be with Luca in the next world. And the way she says all this with her smile, I know it's just the sprite, but it really, really hit me. Like, I just thought it was so beautiful the way it happened. And then of course she gets executed and dies. However, it's tragic in the end that you hear Luca saying, unfortunately, you're not going to end up where I am because you're an angel, whereas I have committed so many things that are sinful. And so they don't end up together in the next world or whatever. So it's tragic in that sense, but they were both very... I would definitely not recommend this game to Otome game beginners because, like, Jesus Christ. I'm used to crazy endings because I've played so many Otome games, but this one, it's just, I mean, I didn't cry, as I said. I played so many that games tend not to make me cry anymore, but that one was just, it did make me kind of gasp, kind of go blank, like, oh, did I really just see what I saw? And yeah, it was crazy. So that's the plot and the two endings. Now, my thoughts on Luca is, when on first look, right, my impression was, he's not really my type. Like, he's got pretty hair, but, like, he looks skinny and weak. And then the common route happened, and I was like, you know what? He doesn't seem as weak as I had expected. There seems to be something about him. I feel like he may be the killer. And yes, I was right. And that made me happy. And I got the feeling that perhaps he's going to be, maybe not necessarily a yandere route, but a route where he's got a hidden side and you learn about it and it's all like cool. So that was my first impression, and then my impression after the common route. And then during the route, like his own route, my impression of him just kept on growing. Like, I just ended up liking him more and more and more and more and more. And then when I completed his route, I just had to say this to someone. I had to say, oh my gosh, I got it right. I didn't think I would, but I got it right. And how his route was so beautiful and how much I liked him and all of this. And yeah, so far he's definitely my favourite, and his route was, I think, so far the most gory in, like, the blood splatter sense, because he is the killer. You see all these, like, murder scenes, like, you don't see it necessarily, but you see that he's killed, and so there's blood splatter everywhere and all of this. So in terms of gore, he was probably the worst. So if that affects you, definitely don't play or don't play this game at all, because there's so much blood everywhere. But I must admit, it was amazing how they just grew so attached to each other. Like, Celeste, despite finding out that he had been fooling her all this time, telling her that, he's her teacher and how he cares about her. He does care about her. He cares about her a lot. And Nadia keeps on telling Celeste this, actually. She keeps on saying, Celeste, my brother really likes you. He's just always hiding it and all of this, and it's really cute. But it's interesting to see how Celeste forgives Luca despite all the things that he has done. And even as the player, you kind of think, I can see why Luca did this. Like, his love for his little sister is like that of a parent, and honestly, it's so painful to watch him commit murder, and it's clearly against his will. Like, when he's doing it, it's because he's being brainwashed by the leader, and so there are scenes where he's acting like it's a great thing, it's his own idea, but then he'll be sleeping and then he'll be like apologizing and getting really upset and stuff. And Celeste sees this because she ends up living with him for quite a long time, and I don't know, I just thought it was a very melancholic, it's just such a good I'm sorry, I know I've already said that so many times, but I just really liked it. And there was one CG, although this game definitely is not the most romantic in terms of like the CGs and stuff, there was this one CG that was super passionate. I'm not going to put it up because I don't want copyright issues, but there's this CG where she confesses to Luca that she likes him, and then he basically pushes her onto the bed and passionately kisses her, and I just really appreciated that CG because I just thought that's like unfortunate situation they're in, and how much they love each other, and how much he's liked her for such a long time but he hasn't been able to show her this, and that forceful kiss CG, it just was so perfect, and I don't know, I really liked it, yeah. But anyway, so you can tell that the speed at which I'm talking about this, I was very hyped about this whole route. I really enjoyed it. I just thought everything about it was sad though. Everything was just yelled despair. It started off with them being happy together and then ended with like this two of them basically dying. He's still alive, but the other, like, thinks he's married to a corpse. So, you know, it was both crazy bad endings, but they were so well written, and honestly I recommend this route. Just if you're okay with bad endings, I highly recommend this route to you. It was just so much fun. But anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and who knows, maybe you'll kind of see me in the next one, which will be on Mattis. Bye!